Hello. Hey there,
That
Bryan.
was awesome.
How you
How's it
doing?
going today, everyone?
Oh man, I was just chatting with a lovely lady from up near you, Bryan.
Really? Up here in the Michigan area?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
She was helping me out with my lawnmower, which
Mm.
one wouldn't think you would need this late in the season, but boy, it's good at chopping up those leaves.
It's called mulch at that point, right? Once you chop them
Yeah.
up, it's just good for the grass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Well, that's always exciting, and we started things off on the right foot with me not clicking all the right buttons, and that was exciting as well. But I think there's more exciting things to do today.
Oh yeah.
If you're interested, we've got data data sets that we can talk about and we can kind of show off and play around with. I think that can be a lot of fun. What do you think about that, Chuck?
I love data. I'm
You
into it.
love data.
I
Yeah,
do.
I get that. I get that.
I do.
Um,
Did you ever have one of those Datadog stickers back in the day? They have like those awesome data nerd stickers.
oh, I don't think I ever had I had a regular Datadog sticker with like the actual like dog logo and all that. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything special though.
I had a sticker that had like the knuckles, you know, that sometimes like they do the knuckle thing with love and hate, but it just
Yeah,
said data nerd on it.
I think I remember seeing those. Yeah,
It was a good sticker.
yeah. Stickers are what we do in dev, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we show our appreciation of all things developery. Ooh,
It's like
before we get started, I see another button available in our little streaming software. I'm gonna push it and just see what happens, and then we'll go back to this layout.
push it.
Ooh,
Ooh, look at that.
fancy. I wonder if I
That's
can do.
cool. It kind of overlaps. We have to be a little
Yeah,
thoughtful.
I kind of wish I could. I'm trying to like drag us to like the other side or something. It'd be nice if I could put us over on the right hand side, but no, it's pretty. It's a nice looking thing.
It sure
I think
is.
I think we'll go back to this though. I think this makes the most sense for where our code and our screens usually are. But yeah, enough about all of that. We have data.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and you just shared your screen too. I've got that available to us as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I like to keep one on the back burner just in case.
always ready, always in the offing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, there is this lovely GitHub repository, which I'll put over in chat. That is a set of data, a literal
Set of
data
sets.
set. Were you going to make that joke, Chuck? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was saying set of sets.
It is a set of
It's a
sets, a set of
complex
sets.
data type.
Yeah. And these are all data sets that are available that you could have gone out and like scraped yourself from somewhere. But having a starting point to start figuring out how to use Algolia and how to play with search and how to play with discovery can go a long ways to figuring out what you kind of want to do with Algolia as a service. And I think it's really cool that we have this repository and it's got a lot of really interesting data. So it's got like movies, and movies are broken up into actors and then the actual records, and they're obviously real big. GitHub doesn't like to show that. I've got them downloaded though.
Yeah.
So we can go to movies and check out records, and you can see it's got like movies that have titles. They've got alternative titles, which appear to be localized, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
internationalized.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a really fascinating thing. It's kind of fun to see like how far from like the original title some of these like foreign titles come, right? Because you want something that's going to be clever in that language.
Yeah, it totally makes sense in that language. Of course, I speak none of these languages, so it's hard for me to know if any of these actually make sense or are good or bad. Yeah, we've got like all the actors. The actors are in here as well, and theoretically they're cross-referenced over here in the actor data set, in the actor JSON file. And they're all already kind of optimized to a degree for bringing into your Algoli index. Each one has an object ID, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to do any mapping. They're all pretty ingestible, which is really nice. And you could just come in here, you could select all, paste it into an index. But we figured we'd probably play around with some of these today and kind of explore the data and talk about how you might craft some interfaces. But we need to get it in first, right?
Well, so the other thing I kind of wanted to show is one nice thing about each of these data sets is if you go into each of those directories, there's a README file, and typically each one has an ingestible public index. So you should see some credentials in there. If you want to, if you don't want to ingest it yourself and play with it, you can actually use one that we sort of host for you to kick the tires on it. And then the other thing is, for a lot of these, I don't know if this one has one, but for a lot of these, there might be a link to a public demo that we might have up, or a GitHub repo with some information about how to use it. So yeah, if you go to the end of the file, they're using the footnote style markup.
There it is. Yeah.
So there, like you can see, there's kind of a pre-baked GeoSearch demo that consumes. This is the airport data set. So this is all of the known, international airports with geolocation data in it. I don't even think it's international. I think it's just all the airports with a 3-letter code. Forget what those codes are called.
I thought they were just airport codes. Is that not what it is?
I'm sure there's like a technical term for them, right? There's probably some standard for naming them. If you know it, shout it out to us. I know CVG was mine in Cincinnati. I think CMH is mine in Columbus. What's yours?
I actually don't know in Detroit. In Memphis, it was MEM. That was handy.
I bet if you shrink that down,
DTX,
you can find
probably.
it out. Yeah,
actually, that's just.
There's DTW.
Yeah, DTW, Detroit Metro Wayne, because it's Wayne County. That's the county that Detroit's in. So DTW. That's super close to where I live.
Yeah, that was my layover on my way to Seattle whenever I was heading out to Seattle. So.
Yep. Yeah, I've laid over in Detroit from my Memphis days for Seattle, for really any West Coast. I think I either could go through Detroit or I could go through San Antonio, I think.
Have you had to run through the Willy Wonka tunnel?
I have not.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I've only been through probably 3 times. I've never spent much time there.
So there's a tunnel between the terminals, and there's an art installation. It's sound and light, and it kind of simulates like a course through like a calm scenario, and then it kind of simulates like going into a storm, and then coming out the other side of it. And if you're like running through there when it's in the storm mode, it can be intense. It's pretty cool.
Just like the tunnel in Willy Wonka. This is not a great video. This is
a great video of it, but
not helpful.
Yeah, that's the Late Show.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the airport data. And so as you're going through, if you're looking for data to kind of set up different things or try different features, there's a lot of really great data sets here. But the important thing is you can always go to that README, and there's probably a version that we're hosting, an application that we're hosting that you can kind of use. Obviously, in a read-only mode, those are all going to be search keys, but it saves you, the hassle of having to sort of build an index yourself and index those records.
Totally, and that can go a long way, but it's also not going to potentially teach you how to best configure things, because a lot of these also have some settings as well that you could programmatically add into your index as well. And you can see like there's some typo tolerance settings, attributes to index in various ways. They're all unordered, title, actor, year, which is kind of nice to see how somebody might go in and do these programmatically, because a lot of the times I just go in and I go to configure inside the index on in the dashboard and then kind of go from there. But you can see all of those things that are available to you in dashboard are available to you as well in the JSON that you can send to the index as well. So yeah, I thought we might do a little ingesting today, and then we could play around with the data that we get in the dashboard potentially. Maybe if there's time, maybe code up a small front end of some sort. And one of the reasons that we want to talk about this a little bit today with these data sets is to kind of give y'all a head start. So next week begins our for lack of confirmation on the title, a Santa search contest, coding contest, where we'll have folks answering questions utilizing Algolia APIs, these specific data sets in a lot of the challenges in the contest. And if you pay some attention today, you may have a head start in getting these things ready to go. Oh, look, Chuck Meyer just mentioned me on Twitter. I felt that buzz my wrist.
I did. I forgot to tell folks that I was live. So.
Me too. I should probably retweet that, huh?
Yeah.
Get some folks coming and hanging out with us. And
we can figure out. Did you have an idea which data set you were thinking about playing with today? I've got some ideas, but I'd love to hear yours.
If you have ideas, I'd love to hear them. I was thinking TED Talks, but I'm happy for any of them because they're all interesting in one way or another.
Yeah, TED Talks is definitely, there's a lot of data in TED Talks, which is cool. There's a lot of interesting things you can do around faceting there because there's just so much data in there. I thought the concert data is interesting because of the fact that it has time information in it.
Oh yeah, with the
data
dates,
information. Sure. And indexes and dates are really interesting in the Algolia world. Spoiler alert: we love epic dates, as you can see there. Which I know front end folks love it when back end folks use epic dates because, boy, it's just so easy. It's just so easy to handle them and show them localized.
And then we download something like Moment.js, and then that doesn't work anymore. That's been deprecated, and backenders. What do you do? You add like 1,000, right? That's, I don't know. I hate dates. Dates are the worst.
So that's something. But the TED Talk is more fun, I think, to play with the TED Talk data.
Well, why don't we look at ingesting a little bit? So okay. I've got a starting point. This does not come in the repository. And again, this is going to be something that if you are playing along with us over the next couple of weeks in doing our competition, you may want to look into doing this. You may want to look into having something to index it. Now, you can come into any of these. You can select all, copy, or you can upload the file directly in the dashboard. But I think there's something to be learned and said for doing this sort of code as well. So yeah, I already have a little bit set up here. I don't have an npm package here, but now I do. Where I have a file called ingester.js, and it's only doing one thing right now because I wanted to do all of this live, but I wanted to have a tiny bit of boilerplate sprinkled in there. So what I have right now is something we can call via node, called node ingester.js, and then provide it right now with one file. And when we provide it with that one file, all it's doing right now is console logging the contents of it using the node package fs, the file system. That's default node. It's not anything that I had to install. In fact, you can see I just installed the package.json right there. But what I want to do is I want to take that and I want to ingest it over into Algolia via this script, the contents of any of these files. And so to do that, I'm actually going to grab npm I Algolia search, I think is all I have to do for that. And that's our JavaScript SDK. That's going to have read and write potentiality to it. And you can see I've got a couple environment variables that I want to remember the names of without opening my environment file, my .env file. In fact, I also need .env as a package to read those.
Yep. Yeah. You don't want to expose that write key.
Exactly. That would be unfortunate. And it is a write key. It's a write key that has the ability to save objects and to create indices, as well as read and all that good stuff. All right. So I've got.
And why does it need the ability to create an index?
because right now I don't have any indexes created, and I want to create them based on file names. I want each of these files to become its own index, and I could go into the dashboard, and I already have a dashboard set up, and I could come into search, and I could say, okay, yeah, create index, and then I can map that over with an index name. But let's do it the fancy way instead.
I like it.
So we need index writing permissions to be able to do that.
Now, again, we talked a little bit about this, I feel like last week, but we're doing single app ID, multiple indices, right? So from the Algolia perspective, right, an application is sort of your external sort of edge of your entire application. All of these indices are going to live within the same application here. So permissioning sort of all lives within that app. But that makes sense because essentially we're just kind of dealing with samples here. But if we were building separate applications, one client was doing an airport application, another one had to do a concert one, you might want to separate those by app ID.
Exactly. And so, and again, this is all for this coding challenge in theory, or just playing with these data sets. And so for the coding challenge, it 100% makes sense to have them all in that same app. And you can see I've done a couple additional pieces of boilerplate here. I've required in Algolia search. I am creating a client based on my Algolia app ID and my Algolia write key. And from here, I can start doing some things. I need to initialize an index first, and I want to do it based on the file name, which I'm going to have to probably, let's actually go back in console log real fast. I don't actually want file contents. I want args0. I need to know, I can't remember what I suppose I could just look and see what I passed in here, but this is more fun. I don't want console log the data anymore. All right, so you can see here, I've got a string that is movies, actors, JSON. So I need to do a little bit of splitting on this as well. And so what we can do is we can set up a file or an index name equals, we're going to grab arg0, and we need to, what do we want to do? A split, I think, on first the slash, because we're getting directory. And again, like I might have to code in like protections against this, but we're doing something super simple here, so we don't really need to do that. We're going to grab the second index off of that, which is going to be actors.json or records.json. And then should I be lazy, Chuck, and not strip out the .json, or should I strip out the .json?
You should strip out the .json.
All right.
Sorry.
It's all right. And we're going to split it on the dot, and we're going to grab the first index of that. And now we should have a clean index name here.
Cool.
Actors.
I love it.
So that means that I can client, what is it? Init index?
Yeah. But can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
This is just me being defensive. Maybe we should make sure that the file exists before we create the index, just in case there's a typo. Unless you feel like you're not going to make a typo the entire next 40 minutes.
Actually, out of curiosity, real fast, what happens? I mean, we get an error.
Yeah.
We could, I guess, wrap this in like a try catch, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Thank you, GitHub Copilot, for helping out in the process here.
That is magic.
All right, so let's see. Let's grab, I guess all of this can really go in there.
It is indistinguishable from magic.
It is amazing how much it helps in so many ways. Init index name. And then theoretically, we can save objects, right? Can we just save the entire file that way? I actually haven't done this. This is.
If it's a valid JSON, which it should be.
It's a valid JSON array, yeah.
Now it has to be, it needs to be taken from a string to JSON. Have you done that at any point, or is that just a magic thing that happens in JavaScript?
It is not a magic thing that happens. This is actually, this file contents variable here will actually be a buffer. And so we will have to, I think it's the toString method on the buffer, which will turn it into it'll turn it into a JSON string at that point.
Okay.
Because it won't be a JSON object at that point. It will be a string that comes from the buffer, but it starts as a buffer in the async call.
Okay. Yeah, I'm translating from the Python code that I've done, where I typically do like a JSON load on it to get, the JSON object or dict.
Yeah, and all we're doing with this get file contents is it's just a wrapper for me around the read file.
Okay.
And so it basically takes that file path in, and then if there's an error, we're going to reject it, and we're going to resolve the data around it. And that's just to get that file contents. So from here, what we can do, and this should work, is we're going. I don't need to JSON parse. I promise I don't need to, because I'm not going to do anything with the data. I'm just uploading the string. GitHub Copilot, magic, but sometimes gets in the way.
But do you I know on the Python side of the world, I actually have to convert it to a JSON object to send it to the SDK. But I don't know if that's the same on the JavaScript side.
Yeah, JavaScript, Algolia, SDK.
Or no, I just have to have it as a dict. I don't have to have it as a JSON. You're right. It's a native object. My apologies.
Let's double check though. This is front end. I want to look at indexing, and I want to save objects.
Mm-hmm.
So index.save objects, and it's saying it's an array of objects, but I'm not sure. If it says that, then it's probably true. But I want to see what happens when I pass the string up. I want to break it.
That's what these are for, right?
Exactly. Const index equals, and then that gives us all the index methods. So we want index.save objects, and it's going to take an array of objects. Right now we have a string, but I really want to see what happens. This actually needs to be below this, and we're going to pass it file contents. And let's just see what happens here. All right, we did get an error. No such file.
Ooh.
Oh, my typo is still there that we did purposefully. But see, good error handling already. Thank you for the try catch. All right, something didn't like something. Let's see what that is. I think it's probably that we do actually want to be objects. Reading these is just horrible. Zoom in. Getting old. That's how you know you're getting old. You can't read your console anymore.
I feel you. I feel you so strongly.
Async function, blah, blah, blah. Unhandled. All right. So that is probably coming from the save objects call.
Interesting fact while you build that. You'll notice that we're calling a method called save objects. Save objects is our Algolia add or update. So it actually has both functions. So because we have object IDs in all these objects, if the record already exists, we'll simply do an update on that record, or we'll create it using the same method. Interestingly enough, when you build the permissions for that API key, the permissions are actually add records. And that's because of reasons. The API's evolved a little bit over time. So there used to be an add record, a separate add record API call. But interestingly, on one side, on the permission side, the add record survives. And on the API side, the save object survives. So just a little kind of thing to keep in mind as you're scoping permissions for your API keys.
Saying object ID. You were just talking about how we had object IDs, and here we are. We actually don't have object IDs on this one.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's dig into the data. Okay, so what were we doing? We're doing, which is actually not what we wanted to do at all, but we were going to do the TED Talks or something else. But let's look at actors.
Yeah,
it says it has object ID.
So that typically means that it's not reading the record properly if it can't find that object ID property, which means
I think we got to convert it to an actual JSON object as opposed to the string.
I think you might be right.
So actually, oh no, that's actually, we knew this. This isn't actually a string. This is a buffer file. I talked about that at the beginning, and then we got talking about other stuff. So here's the buffer, right? It's not actually, So that totally makes sense.
There's no object ID in that buffer.
Exactly. All right. promise. I always do things and then regret it. So this is actually, let's see. Okay, so there's that, but it still doesn't like it.
What's it logging? Let's see.
It's logging. So, I mean, we can see it here. This is, I think it's got to be a string. So what we actually want is the file contents to string. I think is what we want there. Oh, and I never actually changed what we were saving. See if that fixes it first. Hey, that fixes it.
Look at that.
All right. So yeah, so we use the JavaScript object there, and it saved 400 records, and we can come back over to, or 400 plus records. We can come back over to our index.
It's already indexed.
Didn't have any indices before, and now we have actors. And that's it, 500 records in actors. And then each of those actors has some data attached to them. Name, a rating, whatever the rating means. And then some form of image path, which we don't actually have the images associated with them in this, right? Because this is just the data. But let's go ahead and let's run. We said do we want to do the TED Talks or do we want to do the concerts?
Let's do the TED Talks. There's a lot more fun stuff to do there, and we can avoid dates. Maybe there are dates in there. Who knows? There
are some dates in there. I'm pretty sure.
I think there's string dates though. I don't think they're epic dates.
Let's see. Nope.
Oh, ooh, cool. We got a little of everything here.
Little of everything. All right. So let's get two things in here. Let's get the talks and the speakers. I feel like we want two indices, right? So the cool thing is now that we have this ingestion script, all we have to do is change this out, and we can go back to, what was it? TED Talks, talks.json. It works. Again, should you be coming back next week and working with us on the coding challenges, every time you need a new index from all these, you can just run a script like this if you have it. And maybe I'll share my script.
I was going to say, is this gist worthy or gist worthy?
I feel like it might be. It's not great, as you can see, but it works. And when it works, it goes pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's definitely nothing I would ever use for any sort of production-worthy code. But for testing purposes, works out great.
Yeah. So
we have talks, and that means we also can get speakers.
Yeah.
And you can see there's actually a whole bunch in the TED Talks repository here, or the directory, and these are actually various orderings so that we can do various types of filters and swaps for, like, show me all of the funniest, or filter or sort these by funniest videos, sort these by the date in ascending order, sort these by the rating in descending order. Like, all these are replicas of the data set, so that you don't have to go in and make changes. It makes things very, very fast for your front end to be able to swap between things.
Yeah, so a lot of this is we are an API first company, so all of our index configuration you can export and import as a JSON document. So you can see each of these as a JSON document with just different values for how many facets, the index, the attributes to index, right, the ordering, all of that stuff. And so you could write another piece of JavaScript that essentially pushes one of these configurations up to an index just as easily.
Probably not going to do that right now.
Nah.
But you totally could do that. But all that's also available in the configuration. Like, that's all those things are set here. So if we take a look at our data in talks, we've got our object ID, we've got names, descriptions, we've got the speaker, we've got, I wonder, I mean, that's interesting. Speaker's a string. I suppose the speakers.json probably can be matched up based on string. And then we've got all these ratings. And again, these ratings are great things to be able to sort by. Languages, that's interesting. I guess these are all the languages it's been translated to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the event name, an image URL. This time it's a full URL, which is nice. We've got this over here.
Get some tags in there.
Tags, yeah, absolutely, which are facetable probably. So let's go ahead and set a few of these things up in configuration. So we want to probably have title, name,
maybe description.
I was trying to find title. Description. Is title a thing?
Event name, maybe?
Name. Yeah.
Okay.
And then what are other good searchable attributes? Speakers.
Right, because speakers probably wouldn't be facetable. I would imagine most people do one TED Talk.
Well, I mean, honestly, yeah, no, you're probably right. You're probably right. One TED Talk per. I mean, you might do multiple, but that'd be like 2 or 3 max, right? So
yeah, if you need an interesting
people
life.
At one, yeah, exactly. And we're not talking about TEDx, right? We're talking about TED,
right?
So, all right, and then ranking and sorting. We might want to do some sort of custom algorithmic thinking for ranking based on the funny rating and ingenious rating and courageous. Yes, date would also make sense, right? Informative, fascinating, inspiring. Why are they? What are these ratings? I mean,
I think what I suspect is that they give you a survey, right? If you sit in the audience and then you rank on a scale of 1 to 5, and then they do an aggregate. Yeah. The numbers are crazy. I've played with this data set before, and like you're looking at some TED Talks, you're like, oh, that's a really good funny rating. And then if we build like an index with a slider and you see what the highest funny rating is, you're like, oh, that wasn't that funny. But the other interesting thing is like it seems to be an aggregate number. I mean, I'm reverse engineering this, right, based on the numbers that I've seen, but it feels like an aggregate number, right? Which means that if you have a TED Talk, say, where 2,000 people attend and they all give it a 5 funny, but then you have another TED Talk where 10,000 people like attend and they only give it a 3 funny, guess which one's going to be funnier, right?
Yeah, that's potentially problematic. But we can use that and we can kind of create our own sorting algorithm here, or sorry, our own ranking algorithm. So like we probably want like overall popularity score, probably some sort of view count to be pretty high up. And then we can and date, maybe date comes first.
Yeah,
maybe date's not as important as popularity. But then we can say, all right, next up, I want funny, and then I want informative, and I want fascinating and inspiring, right? Yeah. Let's save this in. Let's go back and look at our defaults. And then we can potentially, hey, look, yay, completed all 4 of our onboarding tasks.
Right on. Some of them we completed outside the dashboard, but it still counts.
It knows. It knows. So we can come back and we can see, are you a giver or taker is the top here. And kind of divided America heal. And we can take a look and we see the popularity scores are pretty high on those. View counts, 448,000. So if we were to make a change to the configuration, we could come back here and see hopefully a different lead.
Let's not care about the date so much. Let's say good content's good content. It's timeless.
Yeah, dates are number 2 ranking after the textual content. So
let's take it to the bottom.
Yeah, I'd rather have good content than fresh content.
I agree. This is typically not it, but this is typically not typical technical content. So it's got a longer shelf life.
If you're going for inspiration over education, then longer shelf life, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So, and yeah, James Beach is up there because we have the funny rating is pretty high on that. We want funny, and you can see, let's see, 6,000, 5,800. This one's really low for that, but it's got a really high view count and popularity.
Yeah.
So we could say, okay, I don't actually want, and you could do all these with replicas as well. So like we could have a funny replica, and we could have a an inspiring replica, and all those would then be ranked differently and potentially sorted differently too.
And that's an
But we
interesting
can,
thing here, right? Because it's a numeric rating. It's not a tag, so you can't really facet on whether or not it's funny, right? You could
if you
set
wanted
a
to do the sliders,
threshold.
right? Yeah.
You could set a threshold, but let's say like you wanted to do like a funny category page. You couldn't really, facet on that and say, give me the funny ones. You could potentially do one based on a funny above a particular threshold, or you could create a duplicate of your index that is sorted on funny and use that index to populate that page.
Yep. And the important thing to kind of think about in that is that you're going to be making we can actually do that, and we can walk through that a little bit. You'd be making a replica of it, and that replica, I believe, gets tied back to the original. So as you make changes to the original in terms of data, the replicas also mirror that, and you get new settings, but correct data all the way through, which is pretty important.
Yeah.
So let's make, funniest? No, funny. Right.
World's funniest TED Talks.
There's some good ones.
That's our next stream.
Yeah. So we can go over to that. So here's our funny, right? And it has all those sorting pieces. And let's go ahead and make funny over popular. And then I feel like we can bring date back up some. And then fascinating might be funny adjacent. And then we can kind of figure out, like, I don't care about informative as much as inspiring, and genius probably moves up. And then, let's save that. And this is saving into our funny index, which is technically a replica of our main index. And we can go back to talks. And now we can sort our original talks index however we want, and it's not going to affect our funny at all. So we could come into ranking and sorting and move funny down and move date back up, maybe below popularity, so that it's more important than other things, because people probably want fresher content when they're just looking at talks in general. And we can review and save that as well. Come back into browse, and James Beach is still pretty high up there. Of course, it's hard to I don't know what date that is. Thank you, Epic Time.
You're not a Linux system?
I am only to my friends. I don't know what that means. I have no clue what that means. So yeah. And then we've got the ability to do even more of that if we wanted to. We can set up multiple replicas. We can take a look at the replicas. We could do inspiring, or we could do we should actually have a naming convention, right? And that's kind of what's happening over here, right? They've got a naming convention for it. It helps keep things in order a little bit better, so you don't get confused. But you can see they've kind of got this idea of the courageous rating descending settings. And so it's got most of the same settings as everything else, but let's see if we can suss out what's going on here. Faceting, ranking.
Custom, with the custom ranking down there.
There it is, yeah. And so the main custom ranking is just, that makes sense. Like, don't rank on too much stuff, right? Rank on only the important stuff. And that's let's make that courageous. Ending, we got review and save. And then we can go into that actual index. And these all become, after all of that, I didn't do a naming convention at all. Streaming, y'all. But you can see it does say, this is a replica of talks, which is super handy to showcase there.
And in a situation like this, right, where you're going to be building a lot of replica indices, it might make sense to make this its own application. Like at this point, maybe this is our TED Talks application, and then these are just all of our replica indices within here.
I still think that there's room for a proper naming convention.
Oh, agreed.
Because you also have speakers, right? Speakers is also something that we have.
Well, and think when you're coding against this, right? When you connect up to Algolia and you do a search, you're going to give it the app ID, which could be an alias. So you could theoretically have the fact that it's TED in there. But oftentimes you'll initialize that client in a different place than you'll actually go identify your index and do your search. And so if it's in a separate file and your search just says courageous, that might be hard to kind of to tie back to the appropriate index and understand exactly what's going on. So
yeah, absolutely.
Naming things is hard.
It's hard, and it's just super important, right? It is very, very important along those lines. So yeah.
That said, I think you can rename these things at any time as an action.
Yes, you can go into, I think, manage and rename. And speakers is relatively low end, right? There's not a lot of attributes on speakers, but I just wanted to show that. So what all kinds of stuff could we do with this, Chuck? And what should people be thinking about as they approach next week and the coding challenge?
Right. So I think the things that popped out to me when I was looking at this data set were the different ratings that we've been playing with.
Yep.
And also I thought that the tags are interesting, right? Because that's an interestingly facetable attribute. And I was having some fun building out UIs around having sliders for the various ratings and checkboxes or other sort of faceting UIs for dealing with tags. So that's something that could be fun to play with, is maybe get ourselves some facets and some switchable attributes, and maybe build some UIs. What do you think?
I think that makes some sense. What do you think is the best, other than tags, to do some faceting around?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's see. Let's take a look at our data set again. Do you want to bring it up there?
You want just the pure data?
Yeah, let's just look at the pure data here.
Where is it? Talks.
Yeah. So let's see. So, I mean, you don't really want to facet on speakers, right? Because that's going to be the whole idea here is you want a limited number of values that are used across a multiple number of records. And speakers certainly isn't that.
Yep.
It could be fun to do something around
events.
Oh, that could be cool. That could be cool from a checkable thing. I'm interested. There was one called duration.
Yeah, duration. I think it was. Yeah, it's a numeral.
Yeah,
so let's
I'm not exactly sure what that means, but that would be fun to play with.
I feel like maybe that's like an hour. Let's look at a few durations.
Yeah.
Duration 3 to 0. All right.
I wonder what that is. Maybe not 1. So useful to us.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So what was the other thing we mentioned? You mentioned, it was the event, right?
Event was what, yeah. And then, like I said, I like the ratings. The ratings are fun to play with sliders to a certain extent.
True.
So those could be kind of fun. If we want to pick a couple of those, maybe like, well, we were playing with funny earlier. We could play with funny.
Let's do funny. And then, interestingly, event name isn't facetable.
Really?
It doesn't seem to be. Where's facets again? Because like I come in here, right? And like, oops, missed. And like it doesn't recognize it.
No, it's in there already.
It is? Oh, I did that first. Look at that.
Yep,
okay.
You're good.
Totally.
I think it just maybe it resorted alphabetically on us.
Might have, or I might have actually just done that first. I wasn't really paying close enough attention, probably. All right, let's make a UI demo. New and improved UI demo area. We demoed this a little bit last week as well, but here are our TED Talks.
Look at that. Now, which are we just reducing the vanilla version of the index? This is not the sorted funniest, sorted courageous.
This is talks. Yes, this is the pure. I'm pretty sure this is the pure.
Okay.
Although I could be wrong. What index are we on? Yeah, just regular talks.
It could be fun to start by tweaking some of what we're displaying there.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm curious what this does if we put the data in, if it's smart enough to. Nope. Nope. Oh well.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that another time.
Yeah.
But we could do like popularity or speakers, maybe.
Let's see. Yeah, speakers make sense. I like speakers. And let's get a funny rating since we're using that. And tags. Well, that's not helpful. But we can add some filters, right? So we can do a refinement list around tags, right?
I feel like that's that same problem we had when I was trying to pull in labels on the issues last week.
Yeah.
For our GitHub action.
Yeah. And then maybe let's only grab the most popular 10 here.
Yeah.
Split more.
Can we make them searchable?
And make it searchable.
Oh,
we can make it searchable.
We gotta make them a searchable attribute.
Ah, indeed. It says that here.
That's a little checkbox, I believe.
Yeah. What are we talking about? We're talking about speakers? No.
Tags. Yeah.
Tags.
So I think we've already got them in there. We just got to make them searchable from the drop down there.
Yep. There we go. Oh, filter only, right? No, we want searchable.
Searchable, yeah. So then this is essentially like indexing on the facet too, which is kind of
index
all the way down. Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, it doesn't recognize that quite yet, but we can make it recognize it here. What?
Interesting. Did we forget to save? Did we forget to save after we made the change?
No.
No, but you gotta. They're not real time. You got to go down and actually. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's good. It's just I think
there's a lot of tags.
The demo. Yeah. All right. So let's see.
There it is.
There we go. All right. And then we could do range slider, right? For funny scores. And then
so you see the range there?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
1 to 18,634. It's a big range.
It's a large range.
So that means that we can be like, only show me like the top. Do schools kill creativity? Probably to a degree.
I wonder how much of an outlier that is. Like, what is the next highest one?
There we go.
That is a total outlier. Okay, so that's like almost a typo. Ken Robinson, did you game the system?
Which one was it? Is it the label or was it the description here? No, it's this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18,000 compared to 6. Yeah, 5 to 6 are the next highest thousand. So, yeah, definitely game the system. But be gone, Ken Robinson. And then theoretically, we'd also probably, this is where we would bring in our UI on the front end the replica, right? And we'd have a like sort by funniest, right? And then that replica pulls in and it can keep some of these same things. Humor, comedy. There are some tags in there. Look at that.
Oh, did you have the event in there too? Do we want to do that?
Yeah. Let's see what that looks like, because I actually don't know what that will look like. Maybe that's a menu.
Oh, yeah, let's try that.
Event name.
Oh yeah, because now you get the look at that. We can see how
the years. Yeah. Show more button. Searchable.
Although it looks like there's not as many of those.
Wait, I'm confused. Something's changed in here. Oh yeah, because there's a filter active. Get rid of that. go back to our full range, except for Ken Robinson,
We
because
don't
he
need
gamed
him.
the system. Yeah, be gone. But now we can see. Interesting. It's interesting how these are sorted too. I'd love to see if we could go in and make the sorting better.
That is
But
interesting.
2016.
Boom.
Here are all the 2016, and we want to talk about the future in 2016. The future felt okay in 2016.
That was a different future back then.
It
Interesting. Now, okay, I see. So the way a menu works is you can see the one that's selected because it's kind of that boldish blue, right, on the tab.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you can, I guess you can clear that by clicking it again.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
And then you could also swap, right? It is a binary state, right?
Mhm.
You either can have one. I feel like there's a better word for that. But yeah, you have one selected at a time. And then from there you can select other facets.
The word that comes to my head is monotonic, but I don't know if that's actually accurate.
Monotonic. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Mono
Like
meaning
monotone.
one. Yeah.
It's not idempotent, which is my favorite word to throw around.
I've always thought, I've never heard anybody actually say it. Right. I've always thought idempotent.
Idempotent.
Which is really hard to say. So maybe not so much.
Idempotent is yeah.
Yeah.
These are cool though. So hey, one question for you. This has nothing to do with Algolia and everything to do with being a front-end dev. That slider that we have down there.
Yeah.
So whoa.
It broke.
First of all, we broke our slider. That's awesome. That's amazing.
I'm really good at breaking things. Anyway, go on.
So second of all, if that was a slider that you had built, rather than something went wrong there.
I really broke it. Anyway.
But obviously, if you had built it, it wouldn't be nearly as broken.
Oh, it would break even worse if I built it. Anyway.
But my question is there a mechanism when you're building sliders like that with a large number like that, to essentially build a wider interval so that, say, each of those is 10 or 100 as opposed to 1? That's cool.
Let's see. I gotta remember. So a slider is actually, there's a native HTML element for it, and then that has an attribute on it. HTML slider element. I don't remember if it's actually a slider or not. Where are you, MD?
Our instant search, our instant search widget, does it inherit from that?
I would wager that it does.
Okay.
But I haven't dug deep into how it's actually built. But you can see
we've got a hole, but I just came to my head.
It's a good one. So there is like min and max as attributes. Let's see, where are other attributes? Max, min, step. There it is. So step, you can specify how big the steps are, right? So if you've got a range of 0 to 1, you could actually have a whole bunch of steps in that, and you don't want to be a binary. So at that point, you'd use a radio, right, or a checkbox. But yeah, you can specify how to make each one of those increments. And so for ours, right, we'd probably want 10s.
Yeah,
probably, because other than Ken Robinson messing stuff up. But yeah, so step is what you want there. So yeah, it is an HTML element. Let's actually quickly inspect, because this is using instant search. I don't want to continue on mobile. Thank you. I understand why you want me to, but I don't want to. Let's see. So we might have rolled our own. Got buttons there, button there, because there are. Yeah, this is a custom made. So yeah, and there's probably good reason around it. But you can see we have all the various ARIA stuff in there as well. Because when you do move away from standard HTML elements, you do want to make sure that you bring all that with you, and we did in instant search. So
very cool.
Yeah,
this has been fun, man.
It's been a pretty good one. But we are coming, unfortunately, to the end of our time together today.
Yeah. So I think things that we kind of want to leave folks with today. One, this is all from essentially a curated repository of data sets under Algolia, under GitHub, Algolia/datasets.
Posted in chat again.
You can definitely play with them. You can definitely build searches against the ones that we provide you with credentials without even needing to build an index yourself. Although we encourage you to build your own index so that you can play with the configuration, you can really kick the tires. Because keeping in mind that while a lot of the power sits in the front end libraries, the real secret sauce is down in your configuration of your index. And so if you don't control that index, you're not going to be able to get to play with all those fun settings.
Yep.
And this was all a precursor to the coding challenge, which we'll be talking a little bit more about next week. But prepare for that. It should be a lot of fun. We've been putting some thought into sort of building some interesting challenges. It's all going to be around these data sets, building sort of finding answers to different questions with a bit of a Santa theme. And that's all I want to say right now.
Yeah. Holidays. So yeah, be sure to keep an eye out for that. That's coming. There should be more on twitter.com/Algolia and the Algolia blog next week about what's coming there. So check that out on Monday, hopefully. But next Tuesday, which is our regular streaming time, Chuck and I might let you cheat a little bit and crib off of us, and we may do a challenge live on stream. So if you're interested,
we'll call it more of a study hall situation or a study group situation.
Yeah,
think of it like
we're all working together.
Yeah.
So do check it out next week, and I think the coding challenge is gonna be a lot of fun. We got some prizes lined up, I'm pretty sure, and there's just some interesting questions to answer with these awesome data sets. So yeah.
And there's going to be some really there'll be some good participation prizes too. Maybe some credits, maybe some other secrets for folks that are participating. But we'll talk about that next week.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Algolia, at BRob, and at Chuck M. And we'll see you on the internet later on.
See you later.